go. Dina, so wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you about this phenomenal series. I watched the whole thing over the weekend. You are extraordinary. And before we get into like your performance and everything, I wanted to know how much you knew about this insane terrorist. Tell me a little bit about the background before you took on the role.
I think I'd always heard of, the embassy bombing in Beirut and like had little tidbits of information, but it wasn't a story that I was aware of. And when the scripts were sent to me, and I luckily got all four at once, I actually called my dad at the time and I was like, have you heard of this story? And I sent them to him, and because, I just really value his, he's an intellectual and I just really value his opinion.
Nice. Yeah.
This. It was really wild to know that this was a real story and that had happened. And when I did some research and started talking to people that had either worked in the CIA or journalists that had a lot of information or, spoke about this topic, it was just wild to hear their stories and hear how much it affected the CIA and how much it affected the world. And it's just crazy to grow up and not know these things happen.
Yeah.
And, he was like prolific in Beirut at the time. Like, he was charismatic. People really like followed him and believed in him. And it was
clearly,
it was really quite dire time.
Yeah.
At the time in Beirut in the 80s, and scary. And he was fighting for something he believed in,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's, to some, he's the enemy, and to some in his community, he was the hero. It depends which perspective you're looking at it. And I think that's something our show does really well, where it really allows you to see it from everyone's perspective.
Yes.
And it doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't excuse, anything that happened, but it also shows like, this is why this happened. And this is why he became who he was. It didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right. Exactly. Because you're right. We do see his home life and we see the other side and everything, but we also see very extensively what you, as your character Lena, goes through as a CIA agent. And my first, when you're doing your research, how much can you even talk to somebody who's in the CIA? How much can they even tell you?
Oh, it's hard, it's definitely, people were very generous, but they're very protective too. And you're getting information mostly from journalists, and most, right. And people that don't work at the CIA anymore. So there's a bit of a distance because it's very protected, very on lock. And I felt very lucky Greg was able to connect me with a couple of people that used to work in the CIA, and, an incredible Lebanese journalist that I spoke to. And I really took a lot of what they told me and kind of held it as like a Bible throughout the production, because, there were a couple of things that were in the script that were very important for Lena as her personality. She's very fiery, confident, fights for what she believes in. But then there were steps it went too far sometimes, to some of the, ex-CIA people that I spoke to, and they said that I would have gotten fired. So it was very important to kind of find the happy medium where I wasn't losing her,
right,
and her fight, which I think is really important, because something, I spoke to this incredible Hanin Ghaddar, a Lebanese journalist, and her anger around certain things that had happened in Lebanon, and how, these events affected Arabs as much as anyone. She really wanted the character to be angry. It was very important to her. But then I'd speak to an ex-CIA targeter, and she would say, you'd get fired if you went that far. So I had to find the
balance. You're right, because in an interrogation too, you don't want to piss off that person. You want to, you need to stay as calm as you possibly can, but your head might be saying, what a bastard, like, what a, it's a really interesting thing to think about. There's one line where I don't want to give it away because it's so fascinating just watching the buildup, and especially you working with the Mossad agent and everything, and how they have to, they have different ways of doing things. It's very fascinating. But you have this line where you go, I hate this job. And then he says to you, because you're great at it. I mean, how did you set back that emotional feeling? Not even just as a CIA, as a character you're playing, as a human being.
That moment felt really real for me because, I'm originally Palestinian. Being in a room as a Palestinian woman with, a group of Mossad agents, obviously actors pretending to be, but in like a Mossad set, really created a lot of like emotion in me. There were days where it was quite hard as an actor, to just like allow the feeling of, I'm chasing this Lebanese man with a group of Israeli people. It was very conflicting. And actually, like there was a day I went home and cried because it was just like all the feelings in me. And there was a bit of that feeling of like, oh, this is hard, it's hard to like grapple with the complexities of all of this. And also to feel like how exciting it was to be in a room with people like that, because we get to, it's so real and alive. And actually the true story is that it hasn't been confirmed, but that the Americans worked with the Israelis to find this guy. And something I've been saying all morning is like, my character was Lebanese, but she was American. Like she's raised in America. And so she's very prideful of being American. And so it was all those feelings inside me to say, like, I sometimes hate this job. Like that felt real. Like sometimes acting brings up parts of you that are deep and painful, and there's like generational trauma there and generational experiences that just like build up in you. And so that was actually a very true emotional moment for me, like the conflict of all of the feelings of that. There's pride in it too, where it's like, I loved playing this part and I loved doing it. I loved working alongside Ido, who plays, the Mossad agent that I work with.
Oh, Teddy. Yeah, he was phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Amazing. And we just like adored each other. And it was just like so fun to just play off each other and create that relationship. And so, it's like 1,000,001 things going through my head and my heart at that time when he asked that question. That felt very real.
I'm sure you were so good in this. And just lastly, just to wrap it up, especially with continuing of what's going on in the Middle East and all that, why is this an important series for people to watch?
I think it reminds people that everything has, everything has a reason. Like people don't become Imad Moughnia overnight.
No.
They grow up as kids seeing their country fall apart, their country get taken away from them. They don't have as many resources as the West does. Like, and then same on the other side, like you don't become Lena overnight that sacrifices her entire life to, work with CIA, or Teddy overnight. And I think the series does a really good job at allowing you to connect to the humanity of these people and the complexity of them. And it just reminds us that we're all flawed, we're all human, and we're all capable of becoming people that, would surprise you because of how tragic the world can be sometimes. And I just think it's, that's always a powerful message to remind you that you don't just suddenly become someone that blows up an embassy or suddenly become someone that joins the CIA. There's like steps in place that creates the person that feels the need that they have to do that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you just did an extraordinary job. Oh my God, you were so good in this series. And I just want to thank you so much for your time today, Dina. Really, what a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So lovely talking to you.
Oh, you too. Take care and have a wonderful day. Okay.
You too.